I still remember the email word for word. Dear Miss Eliza Tran, your story moved us. Your strength and vulnerability stood out from the thousands of applications we received this year. We are honored to offer you a place at Hawthorne University with a full scholarship and research grant. But I never applied. I was standing in the hallway when I saw the email on Lily's laptop. My sister had left her screen open while she went to grab tea from the kitchen. She always left her tab on Netflix or Pinterest. Never her inbox. But this time, it glowed with the Hawthorne crest in bold serif font. And the subject line had my name. I remember staring at it for a full minute before I felt my chest clench. My limbs moved before my brain could make sense of it. I scrolled. There it was. The essay. Word for word. My story. My sleepless nights. My therapy sessions. My childhood panic attacks in the school nurse's office while Dad slammed doors in the living room. The sentence about how I used journaling to cope. The story about winning my first science fair while Mom was hospitalized. It was all there. Every sentence. Except the name signed at the bottom wasn't mine. It was Lily's. Lily always had a golden aura around her, at least in my parents' eyes. She was prettier, softer spoken. Well-behaved, they'd say. She didn't argue when they made unreasonable rules. She dated a basketball captain. She smiled in photos. She wore pastels. I wore black. I wrote in my notebook instead of hugging relatives at parties. I corrected my dad when he misquoted statistics. I called out my mom for pretending we were a happy family on Facebook. They said I was too much. It was always Lily who got comfort. Lily who got allowance money. Lily who got to go to prom while I babysat. When my laptop broke junior year, they told me to wait until Christmas. When hers cracked the next day, we went to Best Buy before sunset. But this was different. This wasn't just favoritism. This was identity theft. They took the one thing I had, my truth. Something I never shared with anyone outside of admissions. It was the rawest, ugliest part of me. I'd rewritten that essay 24 times, crying some nights just to get the words right. And now it belonged to Lily. That night, I sat across from them all. Dad sipped his usual whiskey. Mom reheated leftover lasagna. Lily pretended she wasn't watching me, even though I could see her glance up every few seconds. I stared down at my plate, heart beating in a drumline rhythm. The fork in my hand felt cold, my skin flushed. Every inch of me wanted to scream. Instead, I waited until dessert. Lily, I said like a whisper. She looked up too fast. Guilty people always do. Congrats on Hawthorne. She blinked. So did my parents. Then Mom's face lit up. Oh, you saw. Isn't it amazing, our little girl? She got a scholarship, Dad added, proud in the way he never was with me. My fingers curled under the table. Yeah, I said slowly. They said her story moved them. Lily froze for a second, just long enough for me to notice. Then she smiled. I just wrote what I felt. It was a masterclass performance. She even faked a little emotion in her voice, like the trauma was hers, like the pain belonged to her, like the words she stole weren't ripped from the inside of my life. I bit my tongue. Hard. I tasted blood. They didn't notice. They never do. That night, while they all slept, I printed everything. My original essay, saved on my Google Docs from over 6 months ago. My metadata logs, the change history. Screenshots of my email threads with the school counselor where I asked for help revising it. And the pièce de résistance, the time-stamped video of me reading the essay aloud on TikTok Live last October, back when I thought maybe I'd be brave enough to post it anonymously. I never saved it. But my friend Sarah did. She screen-recorded everything, just in case I ever changed my mind. She sent it to me that night, so now I had everything. Dates, evidence, versions. I didn't confront Lily, not yet, not in person. I emailed Hawthorne. 3 days later, Lily got a call. I was upstairs when I heard it. The soft ring of her phone, the chirpy tone in her voice turning into a stutter. No. I wrote it. I did, I swear. She paused. Wait. What essay? I walked past her room casually with a small smile. By dinner that night, her face was pale. She barely touched her food. Mom asked what was wrong. Lily said she wasn't feeling well. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Because that morning, I got my own email. From the Dean of Admissions. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are currently reviewing the case with our Academic Integrity Board. Your original submission has been verified, and underneath that, we would like to reopen your application to Hawthorne University, effective immediately. We hope to discuss a scholarship package with you at your earliest convenience. The kitchen was too quiet for a Saturday morning. No sizzling bacon, no kettle boiling. Just the soft tick of the clock above the sink and the faint sound of birds. Through the window. I sat alone, nursing a cup of tea, watching the steam rise like smoke off something still burning. Mom entered first. Then Dad. Then, like a scene rehearsed too many times, Lily trailed behind them, her face pale, makeup free, eyes swollen like she hadn't slept. Mom sat across from me, clasping her hands like we were in church. Eliza, she said, in her softest, most motherly tone, the one she only used when she wanted something. We know this has been hard on everyone. I didn't blink. Dad cleared his throat. Lily made a mistake, she knows that, but the school's decision has been, well, a little extreme. Permanent, actually, and it's devastating for her future. You mean she's actually facing consequences? I said, deadpan. Lily flinched. Eliza, Mom said sharply, please don't make this harder than it already is. We just want to move forward. As a family. I put the cup down. Slowly. So you brought me here to what? Say sorry? Fix things? They all looked at Lily. She didn't speak. Instead, Mom jumped in. We think forgiveness would go a long way right now, for everyone's healing. I stared at Lily, who still hadn't even made eye contact. Is this a joke? I said, standing. You dragged me in here to forgive her, and she hasn't even said one word to me? Eliza, she's hurting. No, I was hurting. When she took something that belonged to me. Something I built through years of pain. You didn't say anything then. You didn't ask how I felt then. Don't talk to your mother like that. Dad snapped, his voice suddenly sharp. There, it is, I said coldly. The tone police shows up. You only raise your voice when it's me, not when she lies, not when she steals, but when I speak. The silence that followed was thick. Lily finally spoke. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I turned to her. Then, why didn't you stop? You had 100 chances, but you smiled and nodded while they called you brave for a story that never belonged to you. Her lips quivered. I thought, if I could just get in. Maybe I'd start fresh. Maybe you'd never find out. That's the problem, I cut in. You hoped I wouldn't, because you knew it was wrong. She finally broke into tears, but it didn't move me, because it wasn't guilt. It was exposure. Later that night, the room that used to be mine. That night, I walked past Lily's room. The door was open. Half her clothes were scattered. On the floor, a suitcase unzipped. She was packing, or pretending to. She saw me standing there. "Eliza," she whispered, her voice thick. I know I messed up, but I didn't know how to be enough in this house unless I took something that made people look at me. I was never good at school. I was always background noise. You could have asked for help. I didn't think you'd give it. You never asked. We stared at each other in the dim hallway light. For the first time, I saw her not as the golden child, but as someone chasing attention in all the wrong ways. Someone who wore my pain like a costume, because she didn't have any of her own that felt big enough to matter. "I'm sorry," she said finally. I didn't say anything back. Not yet. Because forgiveness, real forgiveness, doesn't come when someone tells you to offer it. It comes when the wound has had time to heal, and I was still bleeding. The next morning, I packed my things. Not because I was running, but because I refused to stay somewhere that only saw me clearly after I broke the silence. I'd outgrown this house. I'd outgrown the apology that came too late, and the parents, who only saw truth when it became a scandal. My acceptance letter from Hawthorne sat neatly folded in the side pocket of my suitcase. The weight of it felt different now, heavier, more earned. Sarah pulled up in her beat-up Honda to help me move out. She stepped into the doorway like a warning shot, eyes scanning my parents who hovered nearby but said nothing. "You sure? You want to do this?" she asked softly. I looked back at the house, at the walls that held so many conversations I wasn't invited to, at the family photos that had Lily centered, always, even in the ones where I was the one graduating or winning. "Something, yeah," I said. "I'm sure. Packing the life they never noticed." I zipped the final bag. Mom stood in the doorway. "Eliza," she said, voice trembling, "you don't have to leave like this." I met her gaze calmly. "Like what?" She hesitated. "Angry, distant. We're still your family." "No," I said. "You were her family. I was just someone who lived here." Dad walked up behind her, arms crossed. "You're being dramatic." I tilted my head. Funny how it's only dramatic when I start asking for what's mine. They didn't reply. Lily was in the kitchen, eyes red, her fingers shaking, as she pretended to text someone. I knew she could hear every word. I didn't say goodbye to her. The campus visit that changed. Everything. Hawthorne University was more beautiful than I'd imagined. Old stone buildings, thick ivy climbing the walls, and people who walked with purpose, students with backpacks full of books and ideas. Nobody knew me there. Nobody knew my sister. Nobody knew my family's dysfunction. Just me. And that was the most powerful thing of all. I met with the scholarship committee that afternoon. They'd reviewed everything, not just the plagiarism, but my application itself, my actual words. "You didn't just write a good essay," one of the board members said, smiling. "You wrote one of the most authentic stories we've ever read." I swallowed hard. "Thank you. That means everything to me." They nodded. "We've expanded your scholarship, Housing included. You'll start this fall. And just like that, I exhaled a breath I'd been holding for years. Meanwhile, back home, I didn't ask for updates, but Sarah told me what filtered through town gossip. Lily had applied to 3 other schools. All declined. Word spreads fast when you're caught submitting someone else's work, especially at the top-tier institutions. She was blacklisted from the scholarship committee's recommendation network. She was stuck at home, taking community classes she didn't care about, her golden girl reputation bruised beyond recognition. And Mom? She tried to explain things to relatives as a mix-up, but I'd posted the truth, without names, without dragging anyone, just my story, the one I'd written. The one that mattered. It went viral. The post that sparked a movement, I posted a short video titled, "They Stole My Essay, But I Got the School." Over 1 million views, thousands of comments. Thank you for this. This happened to my cousin and nobody believed her. Now that's justice. People shared their own stories. Siblings who stole credit, parents who picked favorites, teachers who dismissed them until it was too late. It was no longer just about me. It was about all of us. Fall came faster than I expected. The leaves in Cambridge turned amber, like they were setting themselves on fire in celebration. Orientation. Passed in a blur of names and handshakes, new dorm keys and notebook pages. But every night, after the noise died down, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling and think of everything it took to get here. Every sacrifice, every silence, every moment I was made to feel like too much or not enough. And then I'd smile, because I made it anyway. The letter that came too late. Mid-October, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name, handwritten. It was from Lily. Inside was a folded page from one of my old journals, the one I thought I'd lost. It had a quote I'd written 3 years ago. "If no one hears you screaming underwater, swim to shore. Build your own raft if you have to." Beneath it, in Lily's handwriting, "I didn't deserve to use your voice. I only ever borrowed it, because I didn't have one. I know that now. I'm sorry." No excuses, just ink and guilt. I tucked the page into the back of my textbook. Not to forgive, not yet, but to remind myself that even the people who tried to silence you sometimes hear you in the end, even if it's only an echo. 1 year later, the campus lecture by spring, my professor asked me to speak at a student event. "Tell them your story," she said, "the real one." So I stood on stage in front of 200 faces, freshmen, seniors, staff. I told them about the essay, the theft, the family that wanted to silence my voice and praise it in someone else. And then I said this: there's a difference between being heard and being understood. And the greatest revenge is never rage. It's being recognized in your own name. People clapped. Some cried. Afterward, a girl came up to me, eyes brimming. "My brother did the same thing," she said. "You made me feel seen." I nodded. I knew the feeling, that ache to matter, and back at home, I hadn't visited in almost a year. But when I returned that summer, just for a weekend, I noticed the changes instantly. No framed photos of Lily in the living room. No trophies. The air was still and subdued. Lily was working part-time at a diner near the freeway, studying part-time online. We didn't talk much, but when we did run into each other in the hallway, She nodded softly, not ashamed, not proud. Just honest. Mom kept trying to make small talk. Dad watched TV with the volume too high. I didn't stay long. The last scene. The girl in the mirror on. The last night of summer, I sat on the edge of my dorm room bed, looking at a photo of myself on the Hawthorne newsletter's front page. Scholarship student speaks out on academic integrity and resilience. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just looked at the face in the picture. Calm, confident, clear-eyed. Because I, had made it without becoming cruel, without screaming, without begging for space. They stole my story, but they couldn't carry it the way I could. Because it was mine. And it always would be.